Wired access.
We'll do it live.
Wired access.
Do it live.
Wired access.
We'll do it live.
Wired access.
Welcome to Wired Access Podcast, where I'm your host, DJ K-Dub Omaha. This is going to be our second time we have done a Zoom edition. So it's kind of new, it's kind of different for us, but today we got sharing the co-host with me, Brian Southworth of Wired Training. He's actually doing remote for the first time. And then we have University of Kearney coach Ryan Held. And just remember, folks, Omaha Supernovas is still out there. They're still making noise. The record crowds are happening. Nebraska is the state of volleyball. If you haven't checked them out, go to omahasupernovas.com. Get those single tickets, and they're running specials all the time. And I don't know if you know, but I believe they're in first place at this time at this recording. But check them out, omahasupernovas.com. They are making some electrifying history go on here in Nebraska. Coach Held, welcome to the show. You're out there at the University of Kearney, the Lopers. That school has a lot of history, but so do you and the coaching staff. What does it feel like to be back in Nebraska and at a program where kids want to be a part of the Lopers?
Yeah, it's great to be back in Nebraska. You know, when we got let go back in 21, you never knew where your path would go. I moved to Alabama and worked for the University of North Alabama, which was a great opportunity. And, then it kind of came to the fork in the road again for me. And I had a couple other opportunities, but Dr. Bauer called me up and asked me, if I'd be interested in this position. I have familiarity, obviously, within the state. And I knew this was a place that was committed to winning and good place to raise a family and, on the cutting edge of things. And I just felt this was a really good move to come here, to play in the MIAA conference, which is the best D2 league in America. I'm from Kansas City, so a lot of these teams in this league are close. My family can, from that end, be able to watch us play, and have a lot of contacts in this region. So a lot of it made sense. I was able to put together a really good coaching staff. It was crazy last year. Because we all had to find places to live, which was not easy in today's world, especially in Kearney. It's hard to find a house now. People want to live here. And, put together a staff, keep the kids that were here, go out and get a bunch of new kids, put in new schemes because it was totally different from the most part from what they had previously done. And, we learned a lot. We really did. But as we sit here in year two, having our feet underneath us and 2 recruiting classes now, and, moved on from some kids that weren't fit for us. And I feel really good. This week's testing week for us in the weight room for spring workouts, and that's going really well. And so I feel really good where we're at. Obviously, it doesn't mean a hill of beans. You got to win football games, but I feel really good, today compared to where I was last year at this time.
I think you brought up a great point, and something that I always like to talk to people about is everybody gets disappointed because a kid doesn't get selected by a coach or isn't selected by a school. Obviously, you've been to UNL, you've been all across some of the southern states. Being a coach that has been from place to place, how do you explain this to kids to understand that it's okay if the coaching staff doesn't meet what you're looking for, and there are other coaches out there?
Yeah, listen, with the transfer portal the way it is, this is the world we live in. And not everybo's meant to be with each other. Just like, you marry somebody, that's who you're going to be with. If it doesn't work, you move on. And so, that's the situation that we're in. Is we came in and there were some kids that we felt we wanted to keep. And there were some kids that moved on. And then, even after the season, there was a process of exit interviews and moving on from kids wanting to go to different places. There's no hard feelings. It's called roster management today. And that's the world we live in. And you really got to find the right kids that fit you and what you want in your culture and your organization. And that's just what it's going to be from here on out until if they change the rules again. But every semester there's going to be turnover. No one get upset. Move on, find somebody else. There's plenty of kids out there. But if you can build the right program, you can keep a lot of kids, developing and build a program that, can be a consistent winning program year in and year out.
Well, when you talk about the transfer portal, obviously many have said multiple times over times, if you look at the 90s Huskers winning and all that you were a part of, that would have never happened if transfer portal was the way it was today because people wouldn't stick around. How do you build that culture to understand that, yes, that option's out there, but if you stick it out and you are that type, you never know what could happen?
Well, it comes down to, creating an environment where kids can feel like they can become their best version on and off the field. That's my mission statement. That's what we want to get done. You want the kids to feel in your program you care about them genuinely, that you have a vested interest in them being successful in life, getting a degree, developing them, with life skills and regular day, helping them become better fathers, husbands, etc. That's the environment that you want. And then you want to be able to have schemes and plays that kids can come and can play right away, and not have to be on the bench for 3 years, that they have an opportunity to come in. And, listen, if we recruit a kid and he comes here for 3 years and it ends up being a baller and a D1, heck, Nebraska down the road, if they want him, and he comes to me and says, "Hey, coach, we want to transfer because I have this great opportunity for Division I." I mean, that's the world we live in. You know what? We did a great job. We developed a kid and we put him in position to succeed. And that's okay. Guys get all bent out of shape about it. This is the world you live in. So you have a choice. All right. You either get in the pool and play in the pool, or you're going to be outside looking in. And we're just going to try to find the right kids that want to come here and play in this program. And, if you have that relationship with guys, a lot of times they're going to stay because they build relationship with their teammates and want to be here and they love it. And, but sometimes it won't happen that way.
Brian, you got, of course, a lot of things going on with stuff and I think it's good to have a coach at a young age like yourself where you're dealing with kids where sometimes you're going from program to program. What can you take from what coach is saying here, and how do you and instill that into kids at young ages of anywhere from 10 until high school? Because, of course, they're deciding what select baseball team to play for, let alone which program to play for.
Yeah, I think it's important to get the right fit for the kid. Everyone's going to relate differently with the coach, and everyone has different values and different goals. And obviously you want to find a program that aligns with it. But like coach said, it's the world we live in now. The grass is always going to be greener on the other side, whether that's true or not. And you kind of just got to take it and play the game as well and do your best to develop the kids. And if that leads to additional opportunities, like you said, you're doing your job, right? You're helping that kid develop as a better person, better player, and they're going to succeed in life.
Well, I think we all always say, the stuff that these kids remember is not the wins, losses, right? It's the relationships with their teammates. It's the relationships with coaches. Coach Held, you've obviously been through quite a few places. How do you consistently have to rebuild it? And what makes you want to do that? That's obviously not easy. And obviously Nebraska has the same thing with Coach Roll, who has taken programs from being losing programs and turning them around. And he's willing to do that. What makes you and what drives you to want to do that?
Well, you have to ask yourself, what is your why? What is your professional why? Again, I go back to this. My professional why is I want to help kids become their best version on and off the field. Winning is we're all about winning. And, I wouldn't be in it if it wasn't for the competition and the winning. But if that's all you're in this profession for, then it's going to be very shallow and it's going to be very difficult. So, when I wake up every day, what can I do? What can my coaching staff do to get this program to be a championship caliber organization? But also, are we helping kids become better men, become better fathers? Are they going to class? Are they going to get their degree? Because let's be honest, most of these kids at this level and really all levels, they're not going to be able to move on. And so you better get that piece of paper so you can be prepared for life after football, because football will end for each one of these guys at some point. So that makes it an easy opportunity or easy deal for me because that's my why. If I just about winning, then it's going to be because this profession is hard and it doesn't matter what level. We went to Nebraska and, took over a program that had a lot of work. Our issue obviously is documented, and we got let go. And, it was difficult. But if that was the end all be all for me, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you.
Well,
you had to move on, and you can't cry about it. Go be a big boy and figure it out and put your pants on and go to work the next day.
I like the positive side on that, but there's also probably a side people don't really know. Being an alma mater of Nebraska and having to go through what you had to go through, what would be the biggest struggle mentally that kind of hit at that stage? Because you've obviously been to some places, you came back home and you're hoping this is my home. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to give back. What was that part for you?
Well, when we left UCF, we were 13-0 and had a lot of opportunities and were the hottest coaching staff in America at that point. Then we chose to come back, or Coach Frost chose to come back to Nebraska and, selected us to come with him. At the end of the day, I would be lying to you if I said that I still don't think of the lost opportunities that we had at Nebraska. It still bothers me to this day. I'll carry it till I go to my grave, unfortunately. You have to move on from it, but also the lost opportunity in that situation for us not to get it done. It stinks still to this day, even though I love Nebraska Kearney. I think we all have a pride element and being I was a walk-on player there. I didn't do much. I didn't play much, but I still was getting my butt kicked every day by the black shirts as a receiver, helping them trying to find ways. And we were 63-3 when I was there with 3 national championships and lost opportunity as a freshman. And if we would have won the Big 12 championship against Texas, we would have played for another one. Now I was able to move on and went to Tennessee as a GA and, was part of another national championship. So I was, part of a lot of winning, even though, I wasn't a big, huge factor in it, but I still was a part of it. But yeah, I mean, as you sit here today and we wish Coach Rule the best, he's going to do a great job there. He's already done a great job. He's been very welcoming to us. But yeah, I mean, stinks. I mean, I can't lie about it. We didn't get it done. We couldn't win close games. We were in a lot of those games. And if the ball would have flipped the other way for us, I mean, I still think about that Michigan game that was a night game and it was freaking bananas and Gus Johnson was doing it. And even the last play of the game, if you go and watch the last play of the game, pull it up at your leisure. We call it switch, double switch. And if we could have got a rub on Samari Turi's guy, I think it was Dax Hill, who was a first rounder. If we would have rubbed him, he would have been wide open for a touchdown. We'd have burned the town down, and who knows what would have happened. So I think of those plays. I think of 2018 when we were at Northwestern, who won the Big Ten West. And, we got the onside kick. We didn't get a first down. We kicked it to them. They had to go 99 yards with no timeouts to tie it. And we didn't get that game won. That's why we didn't get it. If we win that game, it changes everything, But again, we didn't. And when you don't get those deals done, you get let go and you got to move on. But yeah, it's a sore that won't go away, unfortunately.
But if you bring winning back to Kearney, as we know that Kearney has won some championships, does that mend anything for you?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, I've let it go, but it's always there. The past, you're always going to think about it, but you got to let it go. But yeah, I mean, I'm all in here. We can build a championship program here. We did a really good job in getting Nebraska kids to come. We've really made a point of emphasis to get these kids to come here regionally, starting in Kearney and branching out. Because, again, we're the only show in the state of Nebraska where you can play in the MIAA and play the Pittsburgh States and the Northwest Missouris. We're the only team that can present that in our state. And we want kids that, they don't go to Nebraska as walk-ons, or they don't go to South Dakota State, or they don't go to, North Dakota State, that, you know what? I want to come to Nebraska Kearney, but you got to go work it. Now, the one thing that I do, and people that know me, I love recruiting, period. That's one of my babies. We're not going to get outworked in that. We won't get everybody, but we're definitely going to work very hard to get these regional kids to come here. Because what does that do, guys? It packs the stands. We're able to, get people to come to the games. And heck, we got Chadron State, an in-state rival back in the day in the Rocky Mountain Conference, the first game of the year. And we're working on, potentially another team in state that would come here in 25, or we'd go there. So we want to keep this in our state because there's a lot of great coaches and a lot of great players that are here.
Well, and I like that you said how some coaches are for kids. We just recently had on an episode AJ Forbes, who was a part of the Huskers.
Oh yeah, I remember AJ. Yep.
And you see these kids be able to go find those success stories. Obviously, it's not everybody's going to have them. What's one that you can recommend or that you could talk about that really sticks home with you, where maybe it didn't work out with you or your coaching staff, but they were able to find someone else that you still kept in contact with because of that growth that you had with them?
Well, I just one that stands out, even though I didn't stick with him, but look at Isaiah Stallberg. He was a Kearney guy, went to South Dakota State. I can remember him on scout team causing us freaking issues. He would pop the ball out, because I was a running backs coach, and I'd have to rip my running backs' rears, because Stallberg just had that knack, man. And then he leaves us and goes to South Dakota State, and I don't know how many, they at least won 2 under, with him there. So I remember that. I have Isaiah Harris here. I don't know if you remember him, Millard South kid that was a walk-on for us, and he's here with me at Kearney. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Sometimes a change of venue is good. A new start, new fresh perspective. And, listen, Division I is a really fun league and fun level. But don't get it twisted. These levels here, I was in FCS 2 years ago at North Alabama, which is a big-time level, and then here in Division II, and I've coached, all levels. If you can believe it, I was the old head coach of the Peru State Bobcats back in 01.
First one, right after
Oak Bowl.
Yeah, right after your Tennessee stint. That was your
That's
first
right.
one.
That's right. So, and I can remember talking about them redoing the Oak Bowl back then. Now they've really done a nice job in that facility up there. But listen, these levels are really, really good. There's really good football players, and we have 4 kids that are going to go to Nebraska for the the Nebraska Pro Day on March 20th. Not saying that they're going to make it to the NFL, but they're 4 good enough players that that'll have a chance to get a look.
Brian, how important is something like this happen at Kearney, where he's able to use the example of 4 kids getting that opportunity to go to the next level, that it doesn't matter what level they play at?
Yeah, I mean, if you're good enough, you're gonna come up, you're gonna find those opportunities, right? So it's pretty cool to just see the kids and stay in state, right? Like go to Kearney, go play for Kearney. Bypass some opportunities like where you're just going to be grinding out in the practice squad. Because the most fun thing about football, I remember, is playing the game. It's hard to grind through those practices. And, if you show those kids a video where they can develop and get better year after year and still reach their goals if they want to play in the NFL and get those opportunities to go in front of those scouts, that's pretty awesome.
Now, Coach, when you look back at this past year, you guys had a 500 season. What was the biggest learning factor, and what was the biggest thing that you felt was your success?
Well, we were disappointed, just because we were in a lot of close games and didn't finish it. We were good for about 3 quarters, and then throughout a quarter of the game, we weren't. It kind of felt a little deja vu-ish from some of the stuff we had at Nebraska. We just couldn't get over the hump. We never, the takeaway for us was we never made other people pay for their mistakes. When you go back and watch the film, we'd have guys, either side of the ball have opportunities. Either we didn't put them in the right position as coaches, or we didn't make the plays. So, for us is really honing in and understanding all the concepts we're asking these guys to do in all 3 phases. The positive was just getting our culture and stuff, what we do off the ground. And That's the thing that whenever year one for any, I don't care if you take over a team that's won 10 games, one game, year one, a lot of times it's just going to be ups and downs. And that's what we dealt with. We learned a lot being in this league, what we need. So we made some fixes in that. We've had a way better off season. We feel really good. We have 101 kids in the program right now going through and, guys are having to go through mat drills and get up at 6 a.m. and all the grind and a lot of those guys last year, because we had to really roster manage and get new kids in because we had different schemes. We struggled at times with the old guys and the new guys blending. That was just something that was what we dealt with. And now we feel really good that we have a lot of the guys here that will play. And then we're excited about these freshmen to come in, and who knows what will happen there. But we're in a better spot. We're going to actually scrimmage down your way at Lewis Central High School against Concordia St. Paul on April 13th. It'll be around, we're going to happen to change the time. It'll be about 4:15, 4:30. Normally at our level, college football, you don't get scrimmages like all the other sports, but they did pass a deal. So we're going to take advantage of that. And we have a lot of young guys that'll experience that.
Is that in the replace of your spring game, or?
No, we'll still have our spring game. That's the beauty of it. So our spring
Nice.
game doesn't change. That'll be April 19th. But we're going to do that, and it'll be a controlled scrimmage. It won't be it'll be a little bit better probably than an NFL, how the teams go against each other in practice. We'll have special teams, and I'll have referees there from the MIAA. And, there'll be some kids that are injured that can't go, and some kids that are ineligible that'll play for us this fall. But there's plenty of guys that will play for us, so we're really fired up about that.
Well, make sure to send that to us so we can get it out. If I'm open and available, I'll for sure come down and check it out because like I've posted with your guys' stuff, I love seeing the local kids. When you look at the local kids and you think of the football as a whole platform, right? Everybody looks at the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Clemsons, right, and the Oklahomas. But sometimes they forget about the teams like the Iowa Westerns having success, the South Dakota States having success, the Montanas having a success. When you see other programs around you that are smaller and able to have that success, how is that a selling point to help get people to come to Kearney? Because you don't have to go to Alabama to feel the winning when you look at what North Dakota has done for so long.
Well, it's interesting when you look at so take the highest level, Division I. That's been the SEC, obviously the Big Ten this year. But when you look at FCS, when you look at Division II, and you look at NAI, okay, and even Division III, what regions of the country are winning those leagues or winning the whole ball of wax, right? Well, it's northern teams. It's the cold weather teams, right? It's the North Dakotas, the South Dakotas. It's the Northwestern in Iowa, NAI. It's the Wisconsin Whitewaters, right? So what, when we look at it is, okay, all right, we're obviously in those regions. What are those teams doing? Why are they so successful? And I think it comes down, they have a really good culture established in a way of what they want. When I look at the MIAA, a lot of these coaches have been here for 20 years, guys. Think about that, 20 years. Ryan Held's been here 1 year, and those guys have figured things out. Well, we had to kind of on-the-job training, and again, we were close, except the last game we didn't play well at all. But, these guys, South Dakota States have a way of life. North Dakota State have a way of life, how they do things. And, we've looked at that. And one of the big things that we saw after 1 year was we need more regional kids. We need Nebraska kids that are going to come. They're going to stay. They're going to develop. Their parents are going to come to the games. And then we got to find the right out-of-staters because we have a lot of connections on our staff that know a lot of people. So we were very meticulous in that because we need out-of-staters too. That can come in here and be difference makers. So that was a big deal to us, is what is the model of these other programs that are consistently winning? And one of the ones that stands out is that.
Brian, when you think of like your kids up and coming and you're having these college conversations, how important is some of the things that get not seen, just as coaches talking about, just get overlooked to where your kid could or should go?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, and I think back at like on my kids and the type of person you want to play, and I love everything coach is saying here. Like, hey, we want to be a better person than a football player because at someday that's going to be more important. Like you're going to have to be a better person than a better football player. So, it's those environments that kids should really seek out. Someone that's trying to coach a person and not just the player, and looking for someone who wants to build a program and teach winning and teach that culture. It's just really important, I think, to look for when you're evaluating your decision of who to go play or where to go play.
Coach, if we look at the athletes nowadays, how important for college coaches is someone's social media?
Well, we've always felt that's important because, you look at, some of the things that maybe they posted or liked. And I can tell you this, that we've definitely moved on from some kids over the years because of social media posts. And the world we live in, we don't live in the same world that Johnny Smith does that has no consequences. If me as a head coach, I like or post things that are controversial, obviously political stuff and all that, you can get ran out of town, but Johnny Smith doesn't matter. Everybody's a tough guy behind a keyboard. That's the thing that you find. And boy, it's just getting worse and worse, over every day. It just seems like, I get on my Twitter. I can't wait to the day that, what is it? X now. It's not even Twitter. That I will delete that. When I'm done with coaching, I will never get on it again because it's just, there's positive things on there. Don't get it twisted, but there's also a lot of negative things that are just, it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow.
People don't understand. Like I'm the same way as you. If I did not do what I do now, whether it's this, I DJ as well, I own a lawn company, the last thing I would ever have is social media. Like it is so consuming of your time, mind, and even your thoughts sometimes because you see what other people have. So, of course, when you think of that part of the social media, how do you put reality into your athletes when you're talking to them to possibly recruit them?
Well, again, we use it for the recruiting and marketing. That's what I use the social media for. Number one. Number two is what kids have to understand is, and it's hard because we all get in this framework and this mindset of I'm going to post something, I'm going to tweet something. How many likes am I going to get? How many comments am I going to get? And it becomes like a drug almost, like a, oh God, I got 800 likes on this because I did this. And what kids got to understand is all that stuff it doesn't mean a hill of beans. It's fake propaganda in the sense of doesn't matter. You're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you are. So people are going to make you feel good, and people are going to make you feel bad. And I obviously, at Nebraska, you would read things, right? And if you got consumed into that, you'd want to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's just you have to let it go, knowing that even this year at Kearney, there were people just bashing me that, I'm the worst coach in the history of coaching. All right. And you have to put yourself away from that. And what are you trying to get done? Again, what is my why? I'm trying to help kids become their best version. I want to build a proud program here at Kearney. I want people to, to know that we're trying to do it the right way. But social media, it's toxic. It's a cesspool of negative a lot of the times, not all the time. It can be very positive too. But if you get caught up into what people are saying about you and all the negative, this, that, and the other, it can be very problematic for you as a person. Or if you live and die by what somebody puts the tough guy behind the keyboard, they don't have any consequences. No one cares. Half the time they're fake accounts set up. You don't even know who the person is because they're cowardly and won't put their name behind it.
Yeah, I like that you're saying all this because I have some parents asking me, and they're like, Kendall, what do you post? How do you post for their kids? And they're trying to get them a little bit of the Twitter action of eyes on. So then I know I go to events, whether it's a prospect event and I record of kids, and not every video that I post is 100% positive. But if you look at April 25th when I saw him at a camp, and you look at May 30th at a camp, and you see the progression, I'm trying to get these parents and the athletes to understand that coaches don't always need to see the perfect. They want to see the progression or a kid learn. How important is that for you as a coaching staff?
Well, I think in recruiting, all right, I've missed in recruiting. Every coach has missed in recruiting. I mean, that's the world we live in. Just like the NFL, they missed in draft picks, right?
Yes, they do.
I think the big thing in recruiting that what kids have to understand is this, all right? Anybody can really put together a highlight video that can, if you have some athletic ability, to make you look worthy of being recruited at a certain level. All right. Now, not everybody can put together something that makes you worthy of being recruited in Division I, et cetera. But the thing where the kids have to understand is this: there's the highlight video, and then there's game tape. And what does your game tape look like in the fourth quarter when you're tired? That's the telltale when it comes down to if you're really doing the evaluation. Is here's Ryan Held, here's his highlight against John Smith. Probably very comparable, but what does Ryan Held's video look like in the fourth quarter in 4 games at the end compared to what Johnny Smith's fourth quarter? And that's when the film, there's an old saying, guys, the film never lies. Okay. So that's the eye in the sky doesn't lie. And I tell our guys that as we evaluate them for playing time with us. That's where you can put together highlight videos, but college coaches that are very successful, all right, consistently, you got to watch the game film. What does that game film look like in certain times of the year and in the quarters?
When you're talking about recruiting and you're talking about these athletes, is it more on the athlete to be the one that goes out, or coaches to help them find the routes?
I think it's a tandem. It's a combination. I mean, you have to be proactive in the recruiting process, get your name out there. You can't expect a coach just to do everything for you. But I think, you want to have a coach that can, help along the process with you, making sure that you're all on the same page. I think what happens is Johnny Smith thinks he's a Division I prospect, right? All right. That's what Grandpa tells him. That's what, maybe he got something, but is he really being recruited at that level? And I think a lot of times parents get upset with high school coaches. Well, my son's not getting recruited at the level we think he is. Well, you know what? You're going to be recruited at the level that you really should be at when it's all said and done. Now, the transfer portal does hurt it with high school kids because there are spots being taken that normally back 10 years from now would have been given to a kid in high school. Now they're going to take a kid that went somewhere for a year or two. Those spots are getting taken, which now high school kids, it goes down to where they've lost opportunities. And that stinks for them. But unfortunately, that's the reality. But you need to have the same game plan with your high school coach to make sure you're on the same page, because if there's a disconnect there, that's when people get all upset. And then that's where, parents, don't feel that their kid's getting recruited. But you have to be proactive, go to camps, be seen, make the right highlight. That's another thing. Make the right highlight videos when you do it, because we don't have 30 minutes to sit here and watch a highlight video. You better put your top plays right away. Depending on the position, that would dictate what that means, which we don't have time for that today. But each position, what does that look like? Okay, for a running back, let's look at that. I'm looking obviously for a guy that can make people miss and then they can go all the way for a touchdown, right? What does that look? Can they catch the ball? Will they block? Are they making yards after contact? Those are things that I want to be able to see when I'm initially looking at a kid.
Expanding on the recruiting, what does 7-on-7, a lot of people are that used to play maybe multiple sports in that, or, going more like the 7-on-7, the 77 route? Like, how does that play a role in the recruiting?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know in 10 years if I've watched a 7-on-7 highlight. I just haven't. And I know it's a big deal. They get out there, and it's a nice way to to be out there. But there's a place for it. But I know that high school coaches and 7-on-7 coaches, that's like oil and water. I think that again, don't quote me on that, but I think that hasn't been at times great. But there's a spot for 7-on-7 because guys are getting better and working their craft and all that competition. I think there's a lot of value in that. But I can tell you this, at the end of the day, we're going to go through the high school coach. That's the guy that to make sure we'll use 7-on-7 as a auxiliary, but I'm going through the high school coach when I'm recruiting guys. That's just being honest.
Does multi-sport athletes raise a good eye for you as a coach at someone that can be very, what would you say, very outgoing, very like they can do multiple things and they're not just locked in? Or would you much rather have a player that maybe can only do football?
Multi-sport athletes all day, every day. Baseball, in high school, I was football, basketball, baseball. What's that?
The culture now is killing it. You have sports that are going all year round. They're trying to make you almost have to make a decision. You're either going to play the 7v7 or you're going to do soccer or baseball.
And again, that's the choice. My thought is, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm going to get them cranking here, but I want them doing multi-sports, right? Not just pigeonhole into one at this point. Then, if you get to your junior year or sophomore year and you're not good enough for basketball, well, I get it. Or, I'm not going to be good enough for baseball. I get it. But I think at the younger levels, especially in middle school, start, narrowing it down freshman year to one. Again, that's their choice. But I like guys that, that are multi, track. There's opportunities to get faster and compete. If a kid wants to come to UNK and be on the track team, great. Go ahead. Make it work. I work well with our track coach. We work well together. Maybe football and basketball might be a little hard. But if a guy's good enough and he can play on the basketball team, great. I'd be open to it. Why not?
Well, I know that
you're competing
at Nebraska. You've seen it at Nebraska, a lot of things. And I think maybe when you were on the coaching staff, you guys had a couple football players go play on the basketball team.
Noah Vedral did that one year when they were a little thin. And we had an offensive tackle, I can't think of his name, from Texas that played. Matt Davison played football and on the basketball team for, I think, Coach Nee. So yeah, the guys done. Riley Washington was a track guy back in the day, I believe. There's kids, if they can do it, go do it. Awesome.
When you think back to your recruiting or your desire to go to college, what's one thing that you take from that experience to pass on to high school kids today?
Well, I think, again, you guys kind of brought it up. It's finding the right fit. I had multi levels of, growing up, I always loved Nebraska. So I had that piece of it. And then Coach Ron Brown went down, and I said, back then you'd send VHS tapes, right? So, you'd put it in the mail and hope and pray that someone's going to hit you back. And, I had a lot of D2s and lower level schools wanted me. But then when Coach Brown, recruited me, and then I actually got an official visit. They had a few left, and I got one. And, my host was Brooke Behringer back in the day. And so I did the visit and, got a chance to walk on. And I wasn't going to turn that opportunity down because I just felt it was the best fit academically and, football, being a receiver. They played a lot of receivers. Now, didn't throw the ball much, obviously. If I would have wanted to have done that and cared about that, I would have went to Missouri. Back then they went 4 wides and slung it all over the yard. And I could have went there as a walk-on and didn't. I chose Nebraska, and that's what was meant to be for me.
When you look back at the coaching staff and the coaches, and you talked about Coach Brown, what was the biggest thing that he instilled in you that really you use today?
Well, he's just a tremendous person, a great Christian man, and just his consistency in demanding work ethic or ethic excellence. Okay, working hard in everything that you do on and off the field. I was fortunate when I was at Nebraska. Coming back, with Coach Frost, as Coach Brown worked with me. So can you imagine? He was my position coach as a player, and then I was the position coach, and then him and I worked together. So I mean, how neat is that, right? I mean, those are things. Not everything was negative in Nebraska. There was a lot of positive things that we were able to experience, and so that was just. His consistency and his approach. I've never seen a guy have the energy level of him. Even to this day, he would go out there. If he was the running backs coach anywhere in America or receivers, no one would outwork him. Just that, seeing that every day has always been something that I've taken with me, that you just can't get outworked. You're going to lose some battles, but just don't get outworked.
Brian, of course, you're early in the coaching part with your own kids, but how important is anybody in your coaching that you've learned from that you could take of kind of what Coach Held was talking about, someone that really gave you that, this is what the ideal coaching is?
Yeah, I mean, I've had I've been fortunate, so many mentors, in my life that played just such a big role, and like all the way back to my aunt, but I mean, it's so important to have a mentor like that, someone that's not afraid to tell you like, hey, you can do this better, go about things this way. And you just don't know what you don't know. I think like going into things, it's like, man, I can go lead this program. I can go do this. And then, you go try to do something, and you have someone that quickly you learn this, you just don't know what you don't know. And it's great to have someone that kind of has your back and can help you through that.
Coach Held, when you look at your staff and you think of a Coach Brown, do you always try to find someone to fit that role?
Well, when I look at coaches, there's certain things that I look for. One, what kind of character of a man they are. All right. Number one. Number two is, are they teachers? Are they mentors? That's something that's very, very important. How are they developing kids on and off the field? And then a huge one for me is you have to love recruiting. If you don't love recruiting, you can't be in college. Even though the NIL and kids are getting paid and all that, it's a different world than when I was there a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
It's changed a lot, but you still have to love recruiting. There are relationships still that have to be built in that, even with, I'm sure, at the NIL level. But if you don't love recruiting, you can't be on the staff, because, that's our livelihood. When we tip it off against Chadron State, the recruiting's done at that point. Have we done everything in our power to put the best roster together? And even today, we're always roster management. Is there a kid that we can try to, and then it's the NFL salary cap at our level. We get 36 scholarships. I get this amount of money, equivalency. And I love that piece of it. It's the Brett Veach, Kansas City. I'm a big Chiefs guy, as you guys probably know. But just to find a way to get one more guy under the salary cap that can help our football team, whether it's special teams or maybe a dude that can come in here and ball out.
Before we get to our final segment that we're having this show, we'll get you on this part. Two things. NIL, what's your thoughts on it, and how is it going to help or affect your team? And second of all, what is the Loper Nation supposed to expect for 2024?
Well, NIL at our level is it's limited, right? I mean, it's not something that's just humongous. Maybe some programs have a really good situation. Kearney's very supportive. I think that's something that, as that continues to grow, I think there'll be opportunities for some kids to improve their brand. And, maybe that's something that could put us over the edge, in a recruiting battle, maybe down the road. My overall thoughts is, I mean, it's the Wild West. I mean, it's crazy. I knew a coach that was, I won't say obviously what school. Kids are getting $10,000 a month, and they're unhappy with that because Johnny's getting $15,000 a month. And it's crazy. That's the thing that that's what they're dealing with. And obviously there's some, these kids are getting paid more now, like the NFL, than their coaches. And that's crazy to think. And then you're going to have kids that, a lot of kids are playing in these bowl games. They're going to want incentives to play in a bowl game. I want a bonus for that. So, I mean, just look at it. I mean, it's insanity. And, I love Division I football coaching it, but that piece of it, I don't miss right now. But that's what they have to deal with. The 24 Lopers, I think you're going to see a better close-knit football team. I think you're going to see a team that is going to understand the details and the concepts of what we're trying to get done better, being year 2. I think we'll see a stronger football team just overall. And then I just think I think we'll be better. The problem is in the MIAA, you could be a really good football team and be 6-5 or 3-8 because anybody can beat anybody on this in this league. But I think, our coaches will be a year in. We're way better. We got spring ball coming up. We tweaked some things. The scrimmage will help us. And then we got to have a tremendous summer. Coach Osborne used to say when fall camp started, our season has been decided. We just haven't played the games yet. We got to have a better summer. Our summer was okay last year. We need a better summer where everybody's doing the workouts consistently. So where when we start, I think it's August 5th, that we're putting ourselves in position. When we get on that bus against Shadron, we're ready to roll.
Well, I greatly appreciate your time. I greatly appreciate your insight to Kearney, but also you as a coach beyond the game. But we did give an opportunity. We have a new segment. It's called Wired In. This is a part where our people who follow us, like us, share us, they get to give 3 questions. We just pick 3 random questions from different platforms, obviously with respect of the interviewee. So I'm going to have our host ask these questions, and we'll let you go ahead and answer those. Brandon, go ahead and ask Coach Held those 3 questions, or one at a time, of course.
I'll do the first one here. So the first one is from a Twitter follower. What is the biggest difference you have noticed between the atmosphere of football when you played to what you coach?
Good question. Back when I played, right, that was in the 90s. I don't remember what the sellouts were. Was that in the 70,000s back then? Then when we came back, I think it was 72, 74. I don't remember. And then obviously it got into the high 80s and 90s. So you got 20,000 more people coming to these games. The with the scoreboard and the jumbotrons, the game day experience that you have now compared to back then, it's like night and day difference. That you can get fans engaged more with just getting to know the players more. I think that's a real big difference back from when I played in the 90s to what we deal with today. And then obviously the social media aspect on top of that. So I think there's just obviously technology has changed the game, in many ways. But the game day experiences now, it was fun going to the Big House. It was fun going to the Horseshoe, going to Wisconsin, and they did jump around, and Iowa, the waving at the hospital after, I think it's the first quarter, whatever that was. I mean, those experiences. I'll tell you the best experience I've ever had in my coaching career was when we were at UCF and we played at Navy. And we fortunate were enough to beat Navy, because that's hard to beat Army or Navy. And when they went over and they did their alma mater, and you stood right behind them, like you just got goosebumps, man. Like that was when you watch that Army Navy game and you want to sing second, that's a big time deal. Obviously, we weren't Army, but we sat right behind them or stood right behind them, and they did that. That was the best experience I've ever had. I'll never forget that.
That's awesome. Next one. What do you got, Brandon?
All right, this is from an Instagram follower. If you had the chance to start your coaching career over, what would you tell your younger self, especially since you became a head coach at the age of 26?
That is a tremendous question. I can tell you this: when I first started coaching back at Peru, or as a GA or whatever, but then I moved into the Peru State, became a head coach, and then I went down to Panhandle State. One of the things early on as a family guy was the work-life balance was way off. It was all football, 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 football. Your family was important, but they took a back seat. All right, they did, unfortunately. Or mine did. And so the one thing, if I had to go back again, I needed to be better in my work-life balance, which I am here at Kearney 100 times better, because I want the environment. We have a lot of coaches that have kids. Obviously, I have kids, and I want kids running around up here, and I want my coaches to be able, they get their work done, but I also want them to have the balance of life and being great fathers. So I think if I had to do it again at a young age, you just get put in this spot of, I got to do this to work my way up and this, that, and the other. And so that's where, if I had to do it again, I would tell my younger self, Ryan, work-life balance, work out more, eat right, get your sleep, just everything, your spiritual life, have it all balanced better. And that's what I would tell myself.
See, Southworth, you got to feel better, because that stuff you're working hardcore on right now.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's I'm going through the same thing right now for sure. So
that would be
learning as
my
we go.
recommendation is, listen, you don't need to work to midnight, right? Have your stuff in place. Like I'm not working till midnight around here. If we can't figure out how to stop power by 8 o'clock, then we're doing the wrong thing.
All right, Brandon, last question, third question. What do you got?
It's a good segue into your last answer there. This is from a Twitter follower. What advice would you give to a new football coach who needs to balance their busy schedule, frequent traveling, and family life in order to make their family feel important?
Well, again, it's what matters to you, and having, what are your values and what are you wanting to get accomplished? Again, what is your why? And so all those have to align. And a young coach coming in, what I can tell you is this, and the problem with society is everybody wants to be the head coach right when they get into coaching. Everybody wants to be going to the top to be the CEO. Well, it doesn't work that way. You got to earn it. I think everybody should have to coach junior college football if you're a college coach, because you got to go paint the fields. You got to be the equipment manager. You got to be the strength coach. You got to do it all. And you think about this for a minute, guys. When I was a GA at Tennessee, we won the national championship. I took over for Kurt Roper. He left to go to Ole Miss with Cutcliffe, and I took over there, and then I was there the next year in '99. We had one GA on offense and one GA on defense in the SEC. Now today, think about it. I mean, how many quality control GAs, visors, and da-da-da-da-da. We were able to make it work then. But you know what? You had to be able to balance life. You had to be able to do multitasking of things, to do 10 projects at once. All right. So, as a young coach, make yourself valuable to where you can do a lot of different things. I would say learn how to make graphics, learn how to make videos, be able to do those type of things, be able to make cut-ups, be the video guy, because those are things that can get you above the line in the resumes. And then have your balance with your family. Don't be a desk guarder, we call you. You come up here and, I'm working. You ain't working. Go home. Go home. Put your phone down when you go home. Get away from it. Be a father. Be a husband. Get away from it. And that's going to give you a better work-life balance. You ain't grinding. Just go home and get out of this. Get out of the office.
Coach Held, I greatly appreciate your time. I greatly appreciate those who submitted the questions for Wired In. That was an awesome segment where it just kind of gave them an idea to reach out with some questions that we might not have hit, or we hit a little bit. So once again, Wired Access Podcast. Remember to like, share, and remember the Lopers are coming. Check them out just across the way here in Omaha, right across the bridge. They'll be here. I believe you said April 19th.
April 13th.
13th.
About 4:15, 4:30 at Lewis Central High School. It'll be free admission. We'd love for recruits to come. People, UNK alumni, anybody considering UNK, come there, and should be a good afternoon. Hopefully we'll get good weather, and we want our brand out. We got satellite camps in Lincoln this summer, satellite camps in Omaha. We're going to be everywhere because we want Nebraska kids to come to Kearney.
I think UNK could take this saying, they'll be anywhere you want to be. Once again, Wired Access Podcast. We'll see you next time.